Today's episode is really special because we are talking with one of the top experts in the entire world about all things stepfamily. You will not want to miss this. I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step-family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. Welcome to episode 32 of the Stepmom Diaries. Today is exciting, you guys. I am talking today with Dr. Patricia Papernow. And if you attended the Stepmom Summit last month, you heard me talk with her there and you got some amazing advice from her. Well, we were able to do this interview a little bit after the summit, and we built on our discussion from the summit. So if you didn't attend, don't worry, you can still get access to all the content from the 3-day event, and you can just head to thestepmomsummit.com, and I'll also add the links in the show notes at thiscustomlife.com/episode 32. But y'all, the episode today is a little bit different than a lot of my other episodes. As you know, I tend to keep the podcast episodes pretty quick, like around half an hour or less, so that you can listen to them, on your way to the grocery store or on the way to work or whatever. I could not stop talking to Dr. Papernow in this interview, y'all. We went for a little bit over an hour, and there's just some gold here. It's really amazing. I mean, she literally, if you're not familiar with Dr. Papernow, I'm going to run through, her bio here in a second, but she literally wrote the handbook on stepfamilies, and I am not even kidding. If you don't have her books, you really need to, and I'll link to them in the show notes as well. She has really dedicated her life and career to providing resources, doing research, developing tools for blended families, and she's just a delight to speak with. So I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. It is a little longer than our usual ones, but it is totally worth it, y'all. It really is. Anyway, so let's get to Dr. Papernow. So I told you that she was literally the author of the handbook on stepfamilies, and she is. She has taught about blended families all over the U.S. and the world. For 40 years, she has developed an extensive amount of clinical experience helping stepfamilies and a really solid grounding in all of the current research about what works and what doesn't to build a thriving, healthy blended family. She is the author of Surviving and Thriving in Stepfamily Relationships, What Works and What Doesn't, and co-authored the Stepfamily Handbook with Karen Bonnell. And she's a member of the Experts Council of National Stepfamily Resource Center and the recipient of the 2017 Award for Distinguished Contribution to Family Psychology from the American Psychological Association. She has appeared everywhere from Good Morning America to the Today Show, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and a huge amount of others. She graduated from Harvard University and earned a doctorate from Boston University. So y'all, clearly she's no joke. We really had a great time talking, and I hope that you will pour a cup of coffee or tea or wine, depending on the hour, and sit back and soak in the goodness of this interview. Dr. Papernow, so excited to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Yes, and it was so great. You just spoke at our first of many Stepmom Summits a couple of weeks ago. And I have to say, it was just really, game-changing to hear your advice and the interaction with all the stepmoms. And you really have made a life's work out of studying and trying to help stepfamilies. So before we get started, I just thank you for that. I mean, I think that the research and the work that you have done is truly meaningful for all of us out there who have dealt with the challenges of blended family.
I do not tire of hearing that this work is helpful, because that's why I do it. That's why I
Yeah,
do
I
it.
mean, it is. And there's so, one thing we learned with the summit, and I think you saw too, is there are so many women who are getting into a step family journey and struggling and dealing with the fact that the journey looks so different than what they thought it was going to look like. And, all of the things that come up. And so it's wonderful to know that there are smart people like you who are really making a difference in how we do this.
Well, and it's important that the information get out there. And that's where I'm grateful to folks like you, because the information is not out there. I think
So
we've
true.
gotten the information out there, for instance, that there are more and more people divorcing without conflict. There's still good 5% high conflict, but more and more people know it's sort of in the ether now that you're not supposed to do that. Got to
Right.
protect your kids. There isn't anything in the ether about step families yet. It's just not out there. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful every time somebody asks me to do something like this. Thank
Well,
you.
you have a standing invitation here. So,
Anytime.
okay, so let's get into the good stuff. So, I always like to ask my guests, what is your stepmom story? Tell us how you became a stepmom and how you got into not just the research, but personally, how did you get into the stepmom world?
Well, I got into the research because I got into the stepmom world. My first husband had 2 kids. They were 5 and 9 when I met them. And a few years later, I needed a dissertation topic. And they were now, like 8 and 12. And I knew that things had changed in my family. I knew it was partly that the kids were older, but something else had changed in the whole family dynamic. And I was allowed to do what's called a qualitative dissertation, which means you're interviewing people and really hearing their experience and trying to make sense out of it. You're not trying to do something statistical. And so I did my dissertation on stages of development in becoming a step parent, and I got hooked. And this is 40 some years later. In that marriage ended after 10 years. I had a child. And by the time I left that marriage, I had a 3-year-old. So I had been the step parent through most of that marriage. And now I had a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. I was single for 10 years. And now I was the parent. So I've experienced now both sides of that divide. And then I just kept doing it. And everything I learned, I had trauma training. I had training in something called EMDR, couples therapy, family. Everything I learned, I would just roll into this, has been enriched my journey and the things that I have to teach everybody.
So valuable, it really is. Now you have your work is well known. You are well known for having identified 5 challenges that step families face. So let's run through those. What are those?
So the just stepping back one step families are fundamentally different from first-time families. I think that's the hardest lesson for stepmoms. I have a quote upstairs. It's something like, experience is something that you get right after you need it, because so many stepmoms go into becoming a stepmom expecting, hoping to make what we call a blended family. And, that language really captures the longing. But the truth is, it's a really different family. And it's a different family because in a first-time family, the couple has some time together, first of all, usually without kids. And children come in hardwired for what we call attachment, for loving connection with both parents and vice versa. I'm just watching my daughter with her second child. They're gaga over that kid, and he's gaga over them. When that first time family splits, you have a parent and children who have that connection with each other, who have years of understandings about how we do holidays, how we do breakfast, what we do with mess, what's allowed noise. And step parents enter as an outsider to all of that. Step parents enter in love with their partners, but they don't have that same connection with their stepchildren, nor do they have the shared understandings about how we do things. And that sets up a fundamentally different structure. So that's the
That is
beginning.
that's such a great, take a step back. And I'm glad you did all of that, because that really is. And I think everyone listening is nodding their head and going, oh God,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
exactly how I was. And I always use the example, we were talking before this about how, before Craig and I got married, I had the Christmas stockings monogrammed and the Easter baskets monogrammed. And I just knew this was, my instant family, and it was all going to be hunky dory. And, you get back from the honeymoon and you're like, whoa,
Ooh.
that
And
is not how this is going to go.
that language, blended family, is the language we use. And I use it. I use it in my article titles. I use it in my book titles, my workshop titles. But I always put quotes around it to begin to suggest that it is the wish.
It's a little misleading.
Who wouldn't want it? And it's not the reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
So back to your question, that structure sets up 5 challenges. And here they are. The first one is, we've already spoken a bit about it, is step-parents. There are insiders and outsiders. In the couple, the step-parent enters as an outsider. Every time a child wants something or needs something, they need their parent, not their step-parent. And a good parent, you're the step-parent, I'm the parent. You finally have a moment alone with me. We are chatting, and my daughter gets off the bus, and she's either made the soccer team or not made the soccer team. She bursts in the house, and who does she want to talk to? She wants to talk to me. Mommy, mommy, mommy. And what do? If I'm a good parent, I turn to my child. Now, in a first-time family, both of us would turn to that child. Or I would turn to the child, and you'd still feel connected. In a step family, I turn to that child, and you, the step-parent, are left out. In. And later, if you manage to bring it up, even if you bring it up very skillfully, honey, I could use a hug, that was hard, what I'm going to say is, huh? What? And not because I'm stupid or an idiot.
You just don't even realize you're doing it.
I have a totally different experience. I was connected. And when you say you were disconnected, now I'm going to feel anxious. So outsiders feel rejected, outside, invisible, I don't matter. Insiders feel torn, anxious. I can't meet the needs of everybody that I care about. And let's throw in the ex-spouse who may have also a bunch. So that's one challenge. And we'll come back to what we can do to meet these challenges. The second challenge is kids feel really differently about a step family than a first-time family. I mean, there are some age differences. 8 and younger is easier. Boys tend to be easier than girls. Early adolescent girls have the hardest time. 11, 12, 13, the age my daughter was when I met my second husband. I hadn't read this. I don't know if this research had been done yet at the time, but I sure lived it. And why do kids experience a step family differently? First of all, they've already been through a loss. Divorce is a loss for kids. And now there's another change. So it's yet more change on top of change. And we know that for kids, the higher the rate and the intensity of the change, the lower their well-being. The other thing is the kids lose their parents. Adults who fall in love are just as gaga as any teenager. They're on their phones texting during kid time, and if a new partner comes over, they're gaga-ing each other. That leaves kids feeling yucky. Now, in a first-time family, that leaves kids feeling good. Mom and dad are connected, up to a point. In a second-time family, kids feel left out. And the other thing is that kids feel loyalty binds. And a loyalty bind is, if I care about my stepmom, I am disloyal to my mom. And those loyalty binds seem to be almost genetic. However, if mom is having a hard time and is bad-mouthing stepmom and dad, those loyalty binds get much tighter. They become
absolutely. And is it fair to say that the kids may still be grieving the parents' relationship? I mean, it's sort of when mom or dad gets remarried, it's sort of like the final nail in the coffin of any hope that, mom and dad may get back together or mom and mom
My
may get back together, whatever.
stepdaughters from my first marriage sobbed through my wedding with their father.
And even though they know that that's an irrational hope, I mean, they're kids and their little brains aren't developed yet.
It's not about rational.
That's still an emotional.
It's about loss.
Yeah.
It really brings home that's gone. It just really, nail in the coffin is exactly the right image, I think.
Yeah.
So that second challenge is kids come into a step family with losses and loyalty binds and way too much change, which makes them more rejecting of step parents. So the first and the second challenge are absolutely related.
Yeah.
So maybe we should stop a moment and see a little bit about how to meet these two challenges and then go on to some of the others.
That'd be great.
Yeah, because I don't want to leave you hopeless. Your listeners hopeless. The first thing is you'd think you'd solve all this by blending, by spending time together. And the truth is step families do need to spend some time together doing fun things. However, every time you are together, that insider-outsider stuff is going to be more intense. Every time dad turns to the kids, stepmom is left out. Every time dad turns to stepmom, kids are left out. Kids are going to feel more of the challenge of, oh gosh, all this change, all this difference, they're going to feel more of their challenges. So one of the things I suggest is carve out one-to-one time.
Mm-hmm.
You need one-to-one time in the couple because stepmom needs time alone with her partner where she feels she's got his or her full attention.
Absolutely.
Kids need time alone with their parent. It is parent-child connection that is most regulating for kids through any transition, but especially in one as large as this. And parent-child time often gets left. Mm-hmm. And what I say to step parents is, pick off your stepkids one by one and do some fun, low-key things with them. Not something where you have to discipline or boss them around. That's our third challenge. We'll come back to that. But something fun. Your stepkid plays video games. You don't have a clue what a video game is, and you don't approve. However, ask those parts of you to take a seat and sit down and ask them to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about this. How do you do that? What's fun about this?
Absolutely.
Your stepkid likes to play basketball. Go shoot baskets.
We had one of the kids' therapists explained this to us, and this was something that I hadn't thought about when I first became a stepmom. We were doing a lot of the family stuff and trying to, act like the blended family, and this was one of the mistakes that we made early on. And one of the kids' therapists, I was talking to them about the challenges that we were having with some behavior and stuff like that, and she said, well, what do you and the child do together alone? And I was like, well, what do you mean? We do a ton of family stuff. And she said, no. You two need to build, and this is a term that I love. She called it, you need to build up a positive memory bank with the child. Because
That's sweet. I'm going to borrow that.
Yeah, the more you can build up that positive memory bank, then, you will not only establish the bond, but that's part of why kids will, especially when they're younger, accept discipline from their parents, is they do have a positive memory bank. They have that biological bond, but they also have years and years of built up memories of, being with them and doing things of trust. Yeah. And they don't have that with you yet. And so if you can kind of build that up, it helps with the bond. And then eventually, if you're bonded and can engage in any kind of discipline, then, they have that positive memory bank and they'll accept it.
Well, you've just moved us very gracefully into our third challenge.
Yes.
And the third challenge is parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Step parents everywhere, and I've now taught all over the world, all over the country and all over the world. Step parents everywhere want more boundaries and limits for their stepkids. And parents everywhere want more understanding and love for their children. So that makes what we call a polarity. Stepmom says, why don't you make your kids clean up? And dad says, or mom, if it's a lesbian couple, the other parent says, this isn't a mess. What's your problem? They're just being kids. Stepmom now feels not heard, and she ups the ante. I can't believe you're such a wimp. And now parent feels even more defensive, ups the ante. You are overreacting. And now they're fighting. I call it the polarization polka, where the step parent gets more and more hard and firm, and the parent gets more and more and more permissive. What kids need is called authoritative parenting. Authoritative parenting is warm, empathic, connected, and sets moderately firm limits and follows through. But here's the catch. The research is really, really clear that parents have to retain the disciplinary part of parenting until or unless children have formed a solid bond, just what you said earlier, Cameron. And that does not even happen in every step family. There are plenty of thriving step families where step parents have real good relationships with their step kids, but they are not the disciplinarian. So what I say to step parents is, you're going to practice connection, not correction. You've guys, what your stepkid's therapist said, you've got to build a memory bank. This is a fragile new relationship. Practice connection, or as not correction, or as my best friend, who's also a stepmom and a therapist, said, relationships, not rules. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be silent, because there are going to be plenty of things your stepkids do that you don't like. What it means is you can't express your discomfort or your unhappiness from a control disciplinarian point of view. You have to express it from a connection point of view. And what does that mean? Control is you will clean up your toys now, or else. Connection is, sweetie, I'd love it if you'd pick some of these toys up. I know you're used to playing, with them all here, but I just tripped on your truck. Could you maybe move that truck out of the way? That's a request. It's connected. It's said in a kind voice. It's said caringly. I'd love it if. Not you will or else. Now, if you're a step parent and you're feeling rejected and not seen, it's very easy to slip into what we call authoritarian parenting, which is discipline, hard and cold, as opposed to warm and firm, which is authoritative. That, the research tells us, is toxic to step-parent, stepchild relationships. However, it's exactly where step-parents get pulled. If you can't stand it, your stepdaughter left a mess in the kitchen again. And this is a kid who doesn't talk to you, ignores you. Are you going to calmly say, honey, I'd love it if... Getting to that will take a few breaths. It'll take some work. What will come quickly is a spike of energy, and I can't believe you did this again, which is going to be damaging. So stepmoms have to breathe a lot.
Absolutely. And this is one of those, I think that the parenting issues are the ones that I hear most about from stepmoms in terms of, I got into this situation and, my spouse, these kids have no discipline because the other
Right.
parent's the Disney parent. And so where else are they going to get it? And I can't get on the same page as my spouse. And, I think this is an area where stepmoms can feel really helpless,
And I think the deal is stepmoms can often help parents firm up. Parents often get a little more permissive.
Yeah.
They will probably never firm up to the level that the stepmom would like. I can tell you
And
that 25
some of that
years
shoring
later.
up should be like behind the scenes, right? Like not.
You have input. Your partner has final say, and you need to do it behind the scenes. And here's the really hard thing. You have to do it really skillfully. At a moment that you're feeling like pounding your partner and saying, I can't believe you did that again, you wimp. At that moment, you're going to have to breathe until you can calm down, find your heart, and say something caring, because nobody likes to be blamed. I don't, you don't, nobody does. It comes easy, but it lands very badly. And the other thing is every parent is sensitive about their parenting.
Absolutely.
So you're stepping on tender territory. So important that you do speak up, but you're going to have to do it skillfully. And skillfully means what John Gottman calls a soft startup. I have something I call soft, hard, soft. Start with something soft. I love you. Something empathic would be soft. I know we have a lot of differences. I know we can work this out. I know you're really trying hard. Something soft and caring and a soft voice. And then say the hard thing with that soft energy. My husband, you're an idiot, sweetie, in a soft voice. That's actually connective.
Yeah.
But no. But more likely, I'm going to have more luck if I say, I know this works between you and your daughter. I know it's fine with you that she leaves a mess in the kitchen, but it's really hard for me. Could we talk together?
Now, ideally, these conversations would happen before you move in together. But the percentage of times that happens is probably close to zero, right?
Well, I think because of something I call learning by goofing, you really don't know. You can talk about some of it. It's like when I I used to go on vacation with my best friend. She had 4 kids. I had 1, and we would talk about, what do we want to do about food and bedtime and, what were our differences. We could talk about those things because they're very concrete. But a lot of these things you just don't have language for until somebody breaks an expectation.
Right.
And then how do you live, by the way, with I have input, you have final say? How do you live with that? It's not easy. It means you may need to turn away some as a stepmom. You may need to take time alone when dad or your sweetie, dad or mom is with the kids. You may need to turn away. You need to, go play basketball one night a week. Go out with your friends, especially on the night that the kids, if your partner is a weekend parent, on the night the kids come over, they may need that time to bond. And you may be a lot happier. Go to a movie. I don't know if says don't go to movies in the pandemic. Go get your nails done. Go take a walk. Go see your friends.
But it's especially hard, too, when your co-parent, your spouse, is looking for that sort of equal partner, right?
How
and
could
I know
you
I had this
abandon the
discussion with my
family?
husband.
Did you?
He did not want to always be the bad cop.
Yeah.
And we had, it was many discussions before we kind of came to a place, where I was able to kind of step back from that. And I was like, look, this is not working, like me being the disciplinarian. And so
you learned from experience.
Absolutely.
Which some people can. Some people, step in to be the bad cop and it doesn't work and they just harden up and do it more. Good for you that you learned from experience. This isn't working.
I think we still have discussions about it because, he is a disciplinarian. He's comfortable, enforcing rules and stuff like that. But, I think both of us really consider our relationship to be a co-equal partnership. And so as an equal partnership, it was hard for him to sort of say, okay, I'll do this. And so, but we've kind of come to a place where he will give, he'll give the final edict on, okay, you broke this rule, here are the consequences. And then I will kind of come back behind him and have a conversation with the child and say, hey, so how are you feeling? What I think your dad's trying to say is this, and da-da-da-da-da, and kind of be a little softer.
Oh, that's sweet. That gives you a nice role.
That's sort of where we have.
Where you get to be the softer one, not the harder one. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. I might borrow that. That's good.
So how do you handle it, kind of staying on the discipline track? How do you handle it when you both are bringing kids into the relationship? I assume you're sort of both responsible for discipline for your kids, but what if Johnny, does something to Susie that's not nice? Or they're, 2 of the kids are ganging up on your kid. How do you handle that?
Well, first of all, this sort of inches us towards the 4th challenge, which is how do we build a joint culture? And part of joint culture is rules. And generally what I say is you're only going to be able to do 2 or 3 new rules, joint rules. And let's start with rules for safety and respect. So this is a place where you don't let the kids work it out. This is a place where the grown-ups have to step in. And here is a place where the adults may need to agree on, we're basically respectful of each other. We
Because
don't
I can
call
see
each
where
other
that'd be hard
names.
for one, if it's your kids that are being the bullies, you're going to be resistant to that feedback and you're going to want to stick up for your kids.
Right.
But then you've got to deal with your partner whose child is the one,
That's right. And different parents may have different ideas about what's bullying.
Yeah, totally.
My husband and his kids, we're 25 years in now, and my daughter's in her late 30s, and his kids are in their 40s. My husband and his kids have a much more aggressive, I don't like it. I think it's much too aggressive. They call each other names, and it works, sort of. But when he does that with my daughter, it's disastrous. It's disastrous. And he still does it sometimes. Especially if he thinks she's hurt me, which is a very common step-parent thing. Mm-hmm. So there may be a difference there. And how you are co-equal partners is you need to really hear each other. And this may be multiple conversations, not just one. If you don't have agreement about what's okay behavior. The truth is, if a kid is hurting, in my world, the other kid's behavior is not okay. One parent may say, your kid's too sensitive. Well, that's who I got. And how do we keep her safe?
The other thing that I hear a lot from stepmoms is when a child is lashing out at them, which is a normal behavior, right? We've talked a little bit about that. But when they are feeling like their partner is taking the child's side or not defending them or not kind of correcting the behavior.
That is so hard. Because here you have a kid who says to a stepmom, I hate you. Now, what the kid needs from their parent is, this is really hard for you, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because there's a feeling under I hate you. There's a need. There's the experience of this is all too much for me. So what is most regulating for kids is if the adults can help them feel felt. That's language Dan Siegel uses. Well, the adults are in a really, really different spot. They're excited. So it's hard for the adults to get it. Going back to the challenges for kids. But the truth is, what will help that kid is if the parent can say, boy, you are really having a tough time here. Let's go talk about it. What the step-parent wants is protect me.
Right.
Tell your kid not to be so mean to me. It's one of the reasons, by the way, do not let any therapist have you do family therapy with everybody in the room. It's one of the big mistakes that family therapists make is to have a whole step family in the room, because as soon as a kid expresses their pain, and grown-ups don't express their pain so skillfully. When we're upset, we're not particularly gracious. And right. Kids really don't. The front of their brain doesn't even grow until they're 25. So kids often will say, I hate you, or you're a bitch, or, something pretty horrible. And then if you got the whole family in the room, you're stuck. Because what the kid needs from the parent is, boy, you're having a really rough time. And to stay with the kid until the kid can get inside, this is way too much for me. What the step-parent needs is, do not let your kid abuse me. And you can't do both. And that's why family therapy with step-families often needs to go in what we call subsystems, pairs, the couple, parent-child. So what do? Behind the scenes, stepmom is going to need her partner to put her arm around her and say, I'm so sorry. That was tough. If you can find your skill, stepmom, take a breath and wait. And later, can you say, can I have a hug? That was hard. Mm-hmm. Now, that means you have to find your big wise self. Can I have a hug? That was hard. You cannot say, you must discipline your daughter until the parent really gets where the daughter is coming from.
Right.
And that's tough. That's tough.
But you could play an interesting role as a stepmom in terms of, if you can get there, if you can get past the I hate you, and have some empathy for the child and
You can
appreciate
play
where
a
they're coming from.
huge role.
You can help your partner get there.
You can help your kid, your step kid. Step parents who can do that. I'm so glad you said that, Cameron. Step parents who can find it to say, boy, you are having a really rough time, aren't you? This is really rough for you. I'm so sorry it's so rough for you. That can make a huge difference to kids. If you only took one thing away from this, if you're a stepmom listening, take that. That's really important, Cameron. I think you did that with your stepkids. Am I right?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, at various points, I have sat them each down, as part of other discussions, and I've just said, "Hey, look, I know this is hard. I know that you may feel weird, saying in front of me that you wish your parents were together, but it doesn't hurt my feelings. And if you want to say that, you can say it. And if you want to talk about stuff you do with your mom, it's not going to offend me, And we've had a number of discussions like that.
You just got cut off when you said that, Cameron. Say it again because it's so, so important.
So I've sat down with each of them. Actually, so I'm going to stop here and I'm just going to say, Nate, that whole little past bit that I did, take that out and I'll start here with that. So I've sat down with each of the kids and had conversations, and usually it's part of a larger discussion. We've had some sort of incident or something, and I've said to them, look, I know that this has all been difficult for you. I know that you probably wish your parents were still together, and that does not offend me. I think that's a totally understandable and natural way to feel. If you want to talk about it, it won't offend me. And if you want to talk about, stuff that you do at your mom's house or stuff that you guys used to do as a family, it does not hurt my feelings or offend me. I want you to feel like you can talk about everything.
Wow.
And, I think, and look, even when you do that, it doesn't always work, right? I mean, it's not like my relationships with my stepkids are perfect, but it does, I think, lay
the groundwork. It lays, it says, and it's sometimes something that a step-parent can pull off that a parent cannot. Because a step-parent, but here's the light at the end of the tunnel, a step-parent can have a wonderful role. I call it an intimate outsider. You are close enough that you're saying those kinds of things to your stepkids really resonates, and you know them well enough. You are outside enough that you can say it. Dad's in it, or mom's in it,
and it's okay to acknowledge the elephant in the room and say, hey, I know this is kind of awkward and weird,
Right.
And let them feel okay feeling weird,
That's fantastic. I will give you credit for it and use it because I think it's one of the moves that step parents can make is to be the one to open the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes kids, it also opens the way for you to develop a unique relationship with the stepchild.
Absolutely.
And I've also said this to all of mine, hey, look, the relationship we have doesn't have to be like anybody else's. We get to figure that out. And so I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad. We get to determine what we are to each other.
Oh, I love that. The relationship that we have is different from all of the others.
Yeah.
I have something I call a loyalty bind talk that I do with kids, which is, and anybody can do it, which is, sometimes having a stepmom and a mom is kind of confusing.
Mm-hmm.
I just want you to know that I know. And with teens, I always say, you might already know this. But just so you know, kids like to be in the know, teens do.
Oh, yes.
Just so you know that I know. Sometimes it can be hard to have both a stepmom and a mom. Here's what I want you to know that I know. Your mom has a permanent place in your heart, like the sun, like the mountains. I hope we start to have a connection over time, but it will be a different place in your heart. Because it turns out that humans have big hearts. And you didn't choose me to be here. But I hope we get to know each other and start to like each other. But even if we do, your mom will have a permanent place always in your heart. She will
I love
always be
that.
your mom.
I hope that every stepmom listening who's struggling with this rewinds that and writes that down. That is like a perfect script to talk to your kid about this
It's
with.
in the Blue Book, Surviving and Thriving in Step-Family Relationships. I think it's chapter 4. It's this whole script is in there.
And if you don't have that book, I'll put a link in the show notes to it. I will tell you it's gold. Both of her books that are out there, the Stepmom's Handbook, Stepfamily Handbook, sorry.
Right.
Stepfamily Handbook and the Surviving and Thriving in Stepfamily Relationships are just pure gold. So if you are a stepmom listening to this and don't have these books, go out and get them.
And if you don't like to read or your partner does not like to read, I want you to know that my website, which you can find just by Googling my name, there are not any other Patricia Papernows.
And we'll link to her website in the show notes as well.
Okay. It's www.stepfamilyrelationships.com. There are a bunch of radio interviews and a couple of video interviews on that website that you can listen to or watch, or ask your partner to listen to or watch, that can really help give you a map.
And that's actually a great point, is to have your partner listen to some of this stuff too. I'll tell you that when we had the Stepmom Summit last week, and of course, when this airs, it'll be a couple of weeks ago, I had my husband listen in on a couple of the sessions, including yours. And I wasn't sure that he was going to be interested in it. And he knows I do all of this stepmom stuff, and he's super supportive. And, we talk a lot about my role and, all of the things that I have learned in these last few years. But it was really eye-opening for him to kind of sit through a couple of hours, worth of discussions on all of this. So I do encourage, any stepmoms that are listening, whether it's through the summit, through Dr. Papernow's website, which does have some fantastic resources. I have spent a good amount of time on her website, I will tell you. But I definitely encourage you, to the extent that, you're having discussions with your partner, your spouse. I think it's a great, it just helps them understand your perspective, where you're coming from, the challenges that you're going through.
Do it for me.
Yeah.
Do it for me. Or do it for us. We'll fly with some people, but for whoever that doesn't fly, do it for me.
Yeah,
I'd really
just
appreciate it.
Do me a favor. I just need a half an hour.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I know we got kind of caught up in talking about the parenting stuff.
Right.
And there's so much meat in all of these different challenges. We still have 2 more challenges to hit.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so the first challenge is insiders and outsiders. The second is children. And that children come with a really different experience and have some very specific needs. And the third is parenting. Parents need to retain the disciplinary role. The fourth is we're trying to build a culture, a family culture, in the presence of at least 2 very different cultures. And the fifth, just so we keep our eye on it, last but not least, there's another parent, an ex-spouse.
Yep.
Alive or dead, wonderful or horrible, children have a connection to that person, and that person is a permanent part of your household, alive or dead. So backing up to culture, how do we create an us? That's part of what we're trying to do. And you told your story about Easter baskets, and that the longing is that we will be a we. But the truth is, I often say to people, I think we have to change the metaphor. Blending implies that you could take a bunch of blueberries and a bunch of strawberries and throw them in a blender and have a really delicious smoothie. Bringing a step family together is a little more like bringing a group of Japanese and a group of Italians together and telling them to make a family. There was something in the background. It stopped. I'm going to say it again because there was something in the background. So what's helpful is to change the metaphor. That oftentimes that word blending would imply that we make a step family by take frozen bananas and frozen strawberries, throw them in the blender, maybe with a little yogurt, and you've got a lovely, delicious smoothie. But becoming a step family is a lot more like bringing a group of Japanese and a group of Italians together and say, live closely, make a family. Well, you're not going to do it by having everybody eat pasta with chopsticks. That's going to
I
make
love
misery.
that. That's a great analogy.
Not unity. Yeah, that sort of hits the So how are you going to do it? Well, first of all, you're going to have to take a breath and be aware that you are bringing two cultures together. And you can talk ahead of time as much as you can. But when you're bringing two cultures together, a lot of how we do it is not in language anymore. Until somebody breaks an expectation. So I make a tuna fish sandwich for my stepdaughter. This is in my first marriage. And I make a Papernow tuna fish sandwich. Nice whole wheat bread. I toast it a little bit. I don't put too many things in the tuna fish. I'm not an idiot. Just a little bit of celery. And she's always complaining about her weight. So low-fat mayo. And I put it on a plate. And she looks at it and goes, makes a face. Picks at it. Now, I could say, and how you ungrateful, something or other. Or I could take a breath and say, tell me about tuna fish sandwich? Is this not a tuna fish sandwich? Well, turns out I married in my first marriage. Here's a tuna fish sandwich. 2 slices of really nice, soft, white bread. A ton of tuna with no things in it. That started to be a thing in our family. No things in it, Patricia. And real mayonnaise. Lots of it. That's a tuna fish sandwich. Now, we couldn't have talked what is a tuna fish? It wouldn't even have occurred to me to ask. So there's a lot in a step family of what I call learning by goofing. You do something innocently, and it turns out not to work out. And the trouble with learning by goofing is there's a spike of arousal that's really intense when you run into the difference, and you have to breathe your way through it.
Well, and it's tempting to get your feelings hurt too, right? I mean,
I
always tell the story of our first Thanksgiving together when, I used all of my Southern family recipes, and we go all out for Thanksgiving and made this gorgeous meal. And my youngest stepson had a cheese quesadilla because he didn't like any of it.
Right.
and I put on a brave face and, made him the cheese quesadilla. And we kind of had conversations like you're saying, like, well, what are you used to for Thanksgiving? What are some things what are some ideas? But afterwards, I was just like totally, I had a meltdown.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't these kids like my cooking? I'm a good cook.
Exactly. I'm just trying to give. I just put my all in. Exactly. And
take a breath, take a step back.
Right. And you might need some hugs. And it might be hard for your partner to give you hugs.
Mm-hmm.
Your partner doesn't want to see their child upset.
Yeah.
So that's... Go ahead.
Sorry. So thinking about family cultures, and this is going to be kind of a big question that I think we probably don't have enough time to get into, but I want to ask it anyway. I know one of the things we didn't talk about in our chat a couple of weeks ago are the needs of diverse step families. And you talk about that in Surviving and Thriving in Step Family Relationships. And I love that you talk about that because, as we see the number of step families grow, which it is, the need has also grown to address every kind of step family, and they come in a million different formulations, right? So how are the needs of these different populations different, to be repetitive, but, how can we help, some of these diverse step families, whether it's culturally diverse, LGBTQ, whatever it is, how can we kind of help address their unique needs? And I know that's a big question, probably for a different podcast episode. But.
It is, right. But let's say a little bit. I'm going to start with a story. My college classmates have been Zooming. It's one of the good things that's come from the pandemic. Have been Zooming once a week, and each of us have been presenting something about what we know. So I did a half an hour on step families. And one of my Black women classmates said, well, how about this? I have a son. She's Black. I'm married to a white man with twin daughters. Those twin daughters can go out and raise hell. I cannot allow my son to do that because he'll be killed.
Yeah.
And how do I say to my son? My son says, that's not fair. And I say, no, it's not.
It's not
fair.
Yeah.
So and that was just illuminating for me. What we do know, by the way, about African American stepfamilies is that generally in married African American stepfamilies, kids are doing better than their Anglo counterparts. And we think it's because in the Anglo culture, the center of the family is the couple, and the boundary of the family gets tightly traced around the household, stops and starts at the front door. In African American culture, parenting is shared across family boundaries, and that's partly a communal culture, a more communal culture. African culture is more communal. It's also a resilient response to slavery, where kids were torn away from their parents over and over, and other people stepped in to care for those kids, or parents had to go stay in the white person's house to, be the maid or the gardener, and kids are left without parents. So there's a lot deeper acceptance of parenting across households. And here's the other piece: non-resident Black dads stay much more involved with their kids, even if they were never married, than white dads do. The highest rate of ongoing involvement is Black dads, then comes white, and then comes Latinx dads. So, and in African American families, when kids don't get along with a step parent, oftentimes they'll go to a grandparent rather than to the other parent.
How interesting.
So some of the differences. What we're finding with Latinx families is oftentimes the culture is quite, it basically exiles the non-residential father. So mom recouples, and it's like the non-residential dad never existed. This is true for Japanese stepfamilies as well, where only one parent gets custody. There's not even a legal process. Mom gets custody. Used to be dad. Now it's mom gets custody. Dad loses out completely. So I had Japanese colleagues who translated my book into Japanese, and one of the things they said is, we recognize ourselves in these Latinx stepfamilies. So the adults are fine with it. However, the kids, as soon as you get the kids alone, they start talking about their missing dads.
Of course.
So it leaves kids really alone with their grief. And we see that, I've also taught in Japan. We see that with Japanese kids as well. And the other thing in both of those cultures is a culture of respect for authority. And so it pulls step parents to step into an authoritarian, hard and cold parenting, which is toxic for kids. So those are some of the difference. For LGBTQ couples, we have some wonderful research about lesbian and gay step couples. Not a lot yet about trans and bi. But what we know is generally kids raised by lesbian and gay parents are as healthy, or in some cases healthier, than kids raised by straight parents. And that in lesbian and gay step families, the parenting challenge is still there. Step parents still want more boundaries than parents do, but there doesn't seem to be as strong a pull for the step parent to step into a disciplinary role. This is not universally true, but it's often true that step parents in lesbian and gay step families, and also this is true in Black step families, step dads, are more likely to support the parents' parenting, and that's much better for kids. What is hard in LGBTQ step families is not the step family part, it's homophobia and bullying. So what
absolutely.
Kids will say is, yes, it was really, really hard when mom, oftentimes, let me back up, the age of coming out has dropped from like 37 to 17 in the last few decades. So in the next few decades, we will have step families where the previous family was a gay or lesbian or LGBTQ family. Now people have come out much later. Most parents have had their children in a heterosexual relationship and then left that relationship to become lesbian or gay or trans or bi. But what's hardest for kids, it turns out, is not their parent coming out. It's being bullied. It's homophobia. It's who should I tell and who shouldn't I tell? Mm-hmm. Who can I bring home and who can't I bring home? That's the more painful issue for kids. And for step couples to navigate, who do we tell and who don't we tell? Mm-hmm. And for step couples who are LGBTQ, one of the things I say to all step couples is that it turns out that physical affection in front of kids in a step family intensifies their losses, ups the sense of change, and intensifies their loyalty binds. Well, LGBTQ folks have been told not to be physical with each other in the culture. And to be told that at home you cannot be physical in front of the kids is painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's painful.
Absolutely.
So what I want to say is be as physical as you want to be behind closed doors. And be sweet to each other about how much that evokes the sense of we're not okay. And to shift it to this, we're taking care of the kids.
Yeah. And, the bottom line is that every family is different. This is information that you have found in research. That doesn't mean that every LGBTQ family is going to be the same way or that every African American family is going to be the same way. It's, like all of us, we're all dealing with unique dynamics and unique factors and all of that good stuff. But yeah, adding on the societal component, it's just like one more thing that
it's one more thing
to deal with, and it seems very unfair.
There is another piece, which is that we can no longer conflate stepfamily with remarried family. The rate of parenting out of marriage has gone up exponentially in the United States and even more so in Europe. So oftentimes the previous partnership was not married and the step couple may not be married.
Yeah, and that's true. I see that a lot more as well. And I always, I've got a private Facebook group for stepmoms, and I will, when people get into the group, I'll often have a mom say, well, I'm not really a stepmom because we're not married. And I'm like, no, you're still a stepmom.
You're a stepmom. You're still a stepmom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we have the one last challenge, which is
last but not least,
big one.
There's an ex-spouse. And what's really hard for step parents is attachment is for life. Parent-child attachment is for life. And that includes with a parent who was abusive, which can be even more confusing to kids. Mm-hmm. But before we go to there, it's what we know about kids is that the most robust predictor of well-being is not, are they in a single-parent family or a step family or a first-time family? The most robust predictor of well-being in kids is what's the level of tension between the adults in their lives?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. That is such a huge, huge point. And it's something that I hope every stepmom listening can have a conversation about that with their partners or spouses in relation to the other household, because to the extent that you can do anything to lower that temperature, that really is, when there's tension there, it affects the kids.
And it makes them hard to parent. And sometimes you don't see it, but if you wire kids up and you have them watch even just moderate tension, you can see their physiology responds. And what we've learned is that even moderate tension, and this is in never divorced, non-clinical families, even moderate tension between the adults impacts kids' attention. It lowers their immune system. It impacts their academic achievement. And the moderating variable, meaning the thing that makes all that happen, is sleep. When there's tension, kids don't sleep well. And when kids don't sleep well, all of that stuff
It
happens.
affects everything else. Absolutely.
So anything you can do to pull up your best behavior and pull up your partner's best behavior in situations that often pull for your worst.
Mm-hmm.
How
Now,
do you stay calm?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when stuff
in
is
front of the
directed at
kids.
you. Yeah.
And especially in front of the kids. You need to protect kids. You do not have conversations about anything during transitions. Unless you have a totally, absolutely friendly relationship, you keep those conversations offline when kids aren't around.
Oh, absolutely. And they pick up so much more than you think they're picking up. Even if you think you're talking in very quiet, angry voices, they are picking up the body language. They're picking up everything else.
They pick up the energy. They pick up the vibe.
Absolutely.
And sometimes stepmoms will say, but it's true. She is a witch.
Matter.
That may be. That may be. You know, whether it's true or it's not true, when you say that to your stepkids, you're hurting them. Mm-hmm. You're hurting them, and you make a dent in their well-being, you're going to pay. If you can't do it for good reasons, do it for selfish reasons.
Now, on the flip side of that coin, thinking about dealing with the ex, but going back to sort of, this is more of a parenting type of thing. It's okay for them to see you and your partner have a disagreement, but it's even better when they can see you come back around and say, hey, we had a disagreement, but we still love each other. And it's okay to disagree.
And we worked it out. Generally, what I say is, unless you're really skilled at this, have your disagreements behind closed doors and keep your voices down. If you're going to have a disagreement, if you have one in front of the kids, go back to them.
Yes.
It's hard when the adults disagree. We both acted rather badly. That must have been hard to watch. And sometimes kids will say, oh, it was fine. And here's what I say in response to that. I'm sure it was fine for a part of you. But you know what? I'll bet there are other parts that it wasn't fine for. And I don't think it was fine behavior. It was not good behavior on our part, and I apologize.
Yeah, we've apologized to each other, and we apologize to you.
Right. We have apologized to each other. I was not so nice. We were apologizing. Yes, absolutely. Needs repair.
Yes.
And it's not that you're not going to goof. Repairing is huge. If you can go back and say, I'm so sorry, I was sharp with you. And to your stepkids as well. I apologize. And not, well, I was sharp with you because you were sharp with me. I was sharp with you. That's a repair.
Yes. It's not a conditional apology. Absolutely.
And it's not an explanation. This is why I was sharp with you. That's not a repair.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a defense.
It's such a huge life skill that you can take a part of setting the example for your stepkids.
Right.
I think I mentioned this to you the last time we talked, that was something that impressed me very early on about my husband, is the willingness with which he will apologize to the kids when he's raised his voice or done something else. And I was just like, whoa.
Oh, you married a good one.
Apologize to kids.
That's great. Isn't that nice?
It is. And but it has set such a great example for them. And, my relationship with them is not perfect, but they are all able to, when they recognize they're wrong. Now, some of them dig in harder than others about that. But, when they recognize they're wrong, they'll apologize. And it's a great life skill.
Great.
It's a great life skill.
Yeah. I have a little step-grandparent who calls it a raw pear.
A raw pear.
I thought she did something to her brother that she didn't mean to do one day, and she got in trouble. And they call me Grandma Patty. Grandma Patty, I didn't mean to hurt him. It's like, I know, Olivia, you didn't mean to hurt him. And it looks like you're really upset that you hurt him. I didn't mean to. She shouldn't have gotten in trouble. Well, Olivia, you know what? You can repair this. Do you know what a repair is? Repair would be you go to your little brother and you say, I'm sorry, Alex. I didn't mean to hurt you. You could try it. Well, we came back a few weeks later. She says, Grandma Patty, I did a raw pear.
I love that.
Raw pear.
Kids. That's precious. Well, that seems like a great note to conclude things. Although I could talk with you forever because your advice is just always spot on. So, but I always like to ask what my guests are binge watching. Now I know that you are more of a listening to books fan. So tell me what you're listening to on Audible, because I have long car drives between DC and Maine. I'm always looking for good books.
I sort of, how you stumble into a group of things. One of my supervisees had me listen to My Grandmother's Hands, which is a Black social worker talking about basically the impact of trauma on his grandmother, who was a slave, and seeing her hands and how we carry that in our bodies. And he was talking about white folks, Black folks, and cops, and how we each carry it in our bodies. That got me into a book called The Prophets, which was a stunning book which is set on a plantation, and you hear the story from some of the Black folks starting in Africa.
Oh wow!
And then as it goes on, you start to hear the story from the white folks. And it's painful. There were times when I had to, and that got me, you can tell I was in a theme, that got me into The Invention of Wings, which is Sue Monk Kidd. A beautiful story about a white Southern girl who's actually turns out to be, I've forgotten her name now, a fairly famous, it's a historical fiction about a fairly famous abolitionist woman and her Black slave. And the two of them are both rebels, as is the Black slave's mother. And it is a powerful, powerful story. And again, I had to turn it off sometimes. So next I'm going to try to find something fun and light. But
definitely.
They were
but I have written all three of those down. I'm gonna check those out because we do a lot of driving. So
there's an extraordinary way to learn about an experience that I know very little, that I think I know about that I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dr. Papernow, as always, this was just so fun and so enlightening. And I love talking with you. And I think that this is going to be something that the stepmoms listening are going to, I hope that they're taking notes when they're listening, because there's just so much here. And again, I'm going to put all of Dr. Papernow's links to her website and her books in the show notes so that you can access those there. But thank you so much. It was so great to see you again.
My pleasure. Anytime, Cameron.
That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.